What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and today I'm back to bring you yet another enticing episode of the 13 Days of Halloween. Basically, these are horror-filled videos that have to do with the Halloween theme revolving around the game we all know and love, Warhammer 40k. Now, if you haven't been catching up on these, I've got about 10 of them done up and ready in a playlist so you guys can enjoy. So at the end of this video, go ahead and click on the annotation so you could look up videos on werewolves in 40k, or maybe you want to learn about vampires in 40k, or maybe you want a grisly battle between the Necron Flayed Ones and the Drukhari's Mandrake. Go ahead and check it out, guys. But anyway, that brings us to today's video, a video on the ghastly ghosts of Warhammer. Now when it comes to ghosts in 40k and Warhammer, the best version of this is of course in Age of Sigmar. Age of Sigmar just does a completely better job at showcasing the horror aspect of the game. You've got vampires in Age of Sigmar, you've got the whole freaking army of ghosts with the night haunts. Like, come on, how's 40k gonna compete with that? But anyway, I could talk about the night haunts for this whole video, giving you background and all that, but I'm gonna talk about my favorite night haunt model, the Mortarch of Grief, Lady Hollander. Now when you look at her sculpt, it's just so amazing. The intricacies, the details, the wraiths flying around her, the roses on her, just everything about this model is great. I love it. And I've even seen conversions online of her done up to look almost like a bloody bride. So it's just a perfect model that really encompasses who and what the Night Haunt are. So I'm going to be giving you her lore that's found within the, I guess it's not really a codex for Age of Sigmar. I think they're called battle tomes, if I'm correct. So without further ado, let's jump into her lore, and then we'll slide on over to talk about ghosts within Warhammer 40k. Lady Hollander is known as the Unrequited Queen, the Veiled Lady, and the Mourning Bride. She is despair made manifest, gloom given form. Each of Nagash's Mortarchs have been anointed with a portion of the great necromancer's vast power. To Lady Hollander, who feigned sorrow in life, he gifted a mantle of misery. She now felt all the woes of the mortal realms, becoming a weaponization of grief itself. Her power transcends the melancholic, for she exudes mind-crippling waves of purest desolation. Mortals in her presence are overwhelmed by a gloom so heavy that only the strongest-willed can remain upright. Most fall to their knees, being mentally battered by their own utter hopelessness. It is sorrow and regret potent enough to cause a mother to forsake her child, a warrior to lay down his sword and accept the inevitable, to stop a beating heart. In addition to being surrounded by an aura of absolute misery, Lady Hollander is also a powerful sorceress. With her incantations, she can direct a pall of despair to weigh upon her foes, slowing them down like some unholy lodestone. Those afflicted suffer a mental burden so dire it causes even the bravest to tremble, their martial prowess lessened by laden limbs and despondency beyond any hope of redemption. Yet Lady Hollander has a far deadlier weapon. From behind her thin shroud, the sunken eyes of the Mortarch of Grief fixate upon a foe. Deliberately she pivots to face them, before slowly and solemnly lifting her veil. What horrors they see are unknown, for none have yet lived to tell the tale. So does Lady Ollander conquer, leading the forces of Nagash's invasion in order to bring a new age of eternal death over the forsaken mortal realms. Now, isn't that badass as fuck? She is grief personified. She is despair. She is hopelessness. She is the end for you. And that's why she's so badass. Now, the only thing I don't like about her model is that it's a little bit frail looking, but hey, I can live with that. That just makes me be ever more so cautious around her. Now, I do have a Night Haunt army, and I've played it a few times, and what I love so much about Night Haunts is that you can easily play them a multiple of ways. You could play them as just being a horde army with a whole bunch of chain rasps, or you could play them to be hero heavy and just have a whole bunch of characters kind of lay down the law on the enemy. So it's a very fun army that I greatly recommend you guys to play if you ever get the chance. They're pretty new, so there's a lot of support to them, and their models are very clean and ghastly looking. But anyway, that's enough about the Night Haunts. Let's switch gears and talk about the ghosts within Warhammer 40k. Now in 40k, usually the only place you see ghosts are within the warp. However, depending on what you believe, such as the Emperor becoming a god and attaining an army of the light, essentially you could think that any Imperial citizen who perishes, their souls become ghosts within the warp that are going to fight for the Emperor. So in a way, are saints kind of ghostly? Because I mean, they're empowered by the Emperor's light, and wouldn't that mean that the souls of humanity is also empowering them, so they're being empowered by ghosts? It's a little bit of a far stretch, but depending on your views, I guess that could make sense. Now, near the middle of 7th edition, if I'm not mistaken, there was a supplement released for a Chaos Warband known as the Crimson Slaughter. These guys had their own set of rules, lore, and models, and were actually featured in a box set against the Dark Angels. So for some reason, GW decided to throw this Chaos Warband in particular a whole lot of love. And for a while, they were my favorite Chaos Warband. The lore was cool, their color scheme was cool, and overall it seemed really badass because it gave us the story of a Loyalist Space Marine chapter known as the Crimson Sabers and their descent to chaos. And it was just really badass. And not just that, but they kind of befell chaos through ghosts, maybe? So I'll give you that story and you tell me if it's ghosts, if it's demons, or what exactly happened to them. So, during the 41st millennium, the Loyalist Space Marines of the Crimson Sabers were being looked at very closely, for they were showing signs of psychological instability and overzealous activities during their cleansing campaigns. Unfortunately, after the events that happened upon the world of Omedia, they were ultimately excommunicated from the Imperium, and they were declared Chaos Space Marines. Heretics, essentially. Basically, what happened is that on this planet, there were multiple chaos cults who were trying to summon a demon of Khorne. Then they tried to step in, but unfortunately, they ended up butchering pretty much every living thing on the planet, and what ended up happening was that Khorne decided to make this Space Marine chapter their own, or his own followers. So, for every person that they killed, their voices haunted these Space Marines. So much so that it further kind of fueled their bloodshed. And the only way they could stop these voices in their heads, these ghosts that were talking to them, were through killing. So it was only a temporary thing, but the more they killed, the more at peace they became, because these voices of the ghosts of all the cultists they killed were just like screaming in their head, taunting them, And overall, it's annoying. So I could see why these Space Marines essentially just said, you know what? I'm tired of all the voices in my head. I'm tired of you ghosts, plaguing me. I'm just going to go ahead and kill and turn to chaos. Because for every death, every life they took, they had just a small moment of peace, and to them, it was worth it. And so, the chapter master Sevastus Krenin led his followers into the Eye of Terror to gain a temporary peace. But when they emerged, they came out as the Crimson Slaughter. But yeah, these guys are badass. I did a whole 3-4 part series way back in the day talking about their lore, their battles against the Dark Angels and whatnot. I even still have Kranin the Relentless as a Chaos Lord, I believe that's what he is. Really cool model. I love the sculpt. The horns are really badass. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much a major incident of how ghosts can be used to turn Space Marines into chaos. Kind of crazy when you think about it. But that's pretty much the major things I found about ghosts in 40k. If you guys know of anything that I'm missing, that I'm overlooking, go ahead and let me know in the comments. And don't forget, check out Night Haunts. They're really badass. And check out the Crimson Sabers, or as they're better known, Crimson Slaughter. And that's all I got for today's video on the 13 Days of Halloween version Ghosts. So yeah, that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for listening. And as always, I'm the Sound Alchemist, part of Woodmine Syndicate, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.